Welcome to My Views and News. Thanks for watching the channel. I have a briefing for you on a map about the situation in the Amhara region. I'll have a look at the last 24 hours. Where did the fighting erupt in the Amhara region? Which were the main fronts? People say, Sajid, try to brief us on a map. It becomes easy for us to understand the location of the places you talk about. That is why I am making this video on a map for you. Before that, I have a few video clips for you. Watch the clips, then I will brief you about 5 fronts where Fano and military fought in the last 12 hours. First clip is a report by ICRC, International Committee of Red Cross. I spoke in detail about it in last night's live chat. ICRC chief Ethiopia head spoke about Martin Thelman, his name. He talked about the losses suffered by Ethiopian military at the hands of Fano fighters. I have his 2-minute long clip. Listen to what he's saying. Secondly, Sudanese Prime Minister visited Eritrea, 48 hours ago he was in Eritrea. He was very warmly welcomed whenever foreign leaders visit Eritrea. Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president, takes them out for a walk. Then people greet these leaders, foreign leaders. Isaias shows how peaceful Eritrea is, how popular he is. So clips have been released by Eritrean media showing Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president, and Sudanese Prime Minister Kamal Idris walking on the streets of Asmara. Some Sudanese also participated in welcoming events. Eritrea has been hosting some Sudanese who have been entering Eritrea since the start of the war. Watch these clips first, then I'll brief you in detail about the situation in the Amhara region.
This is Martin Thalmann from the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, in Ethiopia, directly from Lalibela. Fighting between the Ethiopian governmental security forces and Amhara Fano, a non-state armed group, intensified over the last days as they started at the last week of September. This happens in the North Wollo zone of eastern Amhara in Ethiopia. The rural areas, villages, small towns between Lalibela city and Woldia have been heavily affected by these intense clashes. Many soldiers and combatants either died, were injured or captured, while the civilian population has suffered from restrictions in their movement, limited access to services, most especially medical care and education. All this while the harvesting season is about to start. As the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, and with our teams on the ground, we have been able over the last few days to deliver life-saving medical supplies to 3 hospitals in the region, namely Woldia, Kobo and Lalibela, as well as 2 health centers in the countryside, Kulmesk and Mucha, who took in the many casualties. On Wednesday, 8 October, we have been able, with the agreement from both parties, to transfer 16 critically wounded patients from Mucha to Woldia. This was part of a unilateral release operation of captured soldiers by Amhara Fano, handed over to the ICRC, and then transported crossing the front line and handed over into the care of the Ethiopian security forces in Woldia town. On Thursday, 9 October, we also managed to visit detained soldiers held by Amhara Fano in a remote, high mountainous region and assess their situation and treatment. The detention visit was undertaken in accordance with ICRC's usual long-standing modalities for detention visits, as we do them all over the world in conflict situations. In our continuing confidential dialogue with both parties to this armed conflict, we, the ICRC, reminded all parties of their obligation under international humanitarian law, IHL. These rules protect persons who are not or no longer participating in hostilities. This includes persons who are captured or wounded, regardless if they are civilians or combatants. We, the ICRC, will continue with our activities in proximity to the front lines and continue to offer our services as a neutral intermediary between the parties to the conflict.
I think the busiest front in the last 24 hours was Gujam, East Gujam zone of the Amhara region, where heavy fighting erupted for the control of a city, fighting between Fano fighters and the Ethiopian National Defense Force. I'm talking about Mertole Mariam. You can see the city situated along this road, uh, Gujam to Wollo Road. This road, which passes through Makan Salam and touches Dassi. Makan Salam is a little towards Wollo side, and Mertole Mariam is in Gujam, East Gujam zone of the Amhara region. Here, all day yesterday, there was heavy fighting between military and the uh, Fano fighters. Fano fighters managed to enter Mertole Mariam, and reportedly, in this deadly clash, churches were used, government offices were used as military camps, and fighting was in the city being confirmed. Both sides making claims. Fano groups say that they inflicted losses on the military. They killed and wounded dozens of ENDF soldiers. They captured weapons and they then withdrew. Military sources say that Fano came to control Mertole Mariam, but Fano's attack on Mertole Mariam has been repelled. So, military is indirectly confirming Fano's entry in Mertole Mariam. They have withdrawn, Fano have withdrawn from Mertole Mariam. First front. Secondly, Fano fighters released pictures yesterday from Shebel Berenta. You can see here, Shebel Berenta. It is close to the road, this road, Bartole Debre to Dejan Road. Shebel Berenta is the place where Fano held discussions with teachers. I think it's also in Gujam. In Gujam, we're seeing that Fano fighters are trying to resume educational activities. It's good to see, by the way. A few days ago, Fano commanders held meetings in other parts of Gojam with teachers because millions of students in the Amhara region out of schools because of the conflict here. And people obviously are blaming Fano. So Fano fighters, I think, want educational activities to resume in the region. That's why they're holding discussions, and they met with teachers in Shebel Beranta. Pictures have been released too. Hopefully, Fano groups will ensure, I think, resumption of schooling activities in Gujam in some parts. Thirdly, government media released pictures yesterday from Habro, Marsa rather, not Habro, from Marsa. You can see Marsa here, situated between Voldia and Dasi. Marsa was the place where Fano entered a few days ago. They held discussions here. They showed their control of the town. Town is strategic. You can see it's on Voldia to Dasi Road. Then military launched a counterattack. Drone strikes were reported here. Government has shared pictures from government offices, health office, revenue office, education office, land office, and the pictures show office equipment destroyed. In health office, it seems that medicines have been taken. So government media is claiming that Fano fighters actually damaged and destroyed government offices. This is what Tenta Voreda also claimed, that when Fano fighters entered Ajibar, they damaged government offices. By damage, they mean that the equipment has been damaged, that the Logistics have been taken by Fano fighters. Otherwise, no signs that Fano is setting fire to government offices. They could have set fire, by the way, to government offices, but no proof that any government office has been set on fire by Fano. But yes, they are robbing government offices. They robbed banks too in Marsa. I was the first one to report about it, if you remember. I said Fano fighters robbed banks in Marsa. They are robbing government storage sites, whatever they can take, they're taking from these places and withdrawing. So they have withdrawn from Marsa, confirmed now. What about Gashina? Well, Gashina, I think situation is the same, that military is in control here, and Fano withdrew from here. They lost Kone too. You can see Kone here. They lost Kone as well. That is why now they're not in a position to make an entry back into Gashina. Uh, Maybe after a few days, once they manage to get close to Gashina, they could again enter Gashina. But so far, Gashina is under military control. Fighting reported in the outskirts of Gashina now. Fano carried out an attack on a convoy yesterday, being confirmed by several sources. You can see Gondar here. Gondar to Maksanath. You can see Maksanath here. This is Maksanath. Maksanath to Gondar. So this road was the place where Fano carried out an attack on a convoy of strike force. Convoy, generally the forces are now traveling in convoys because individual vehicles are being attacked. They're not safe. No road is totally safe for military now in the Amhara region because Fano have their presence. They carry out ambush attacks. So that is why these government forces move in convoys. So one convoy of the Ethiopian military, not Ethiopian military, it was convoy strike force came under attack here, and reportedly some vehicles suffered damage in this attack. Fighting happened in Matimma too in the last 48 hours, and here too Fano fighters carried out an attack, a surprise attack on military. By the way, near Matimma, there are several groups operating. It's not just between Fano and military. There are other ethnic groups operating too in Sudan and even in Ethiopia, the Ethiopian side of the border. So clashes sometimes erupt between Fano and other ethnic groups too. But the clash in the last 48 hours was between Fano and the Ethiopian National Defense Force. So this is the situation in the Amhara region. Overall, we can say that there was no large-scale fighting in Wollo in the last 24 hours. And the reason behind that is that in Wollo, military is taking its POWs, its injured soldiers from Fano through ICRC, and secondly, ICRC people are visiting ENDF soldiers who are being kept at camps by Fano fighters. That is why less intensity in fighting in Wollo, but it will pick up, I think, in coming days. Thanks for watching.